Hi guys, today we're talking about the shadow as well as triggers and shadow work. Okay, so most people know the term the shadow that was coined by Carl Gustav Jung, and he referred to this as the suppressed parts of ourselves. As we're growing up as children, we might feel that certain parts of ourselves are not acceptable, and then in order to survive, we push this into the shadow. We don't only do this when we're children, but we will do it later in life as well. So it's part that we disown and that we shame, as well as parts that we think other people disown and shame. So most people think that when we refer to the shadow, it's only the gnarly bits, right? It's only the bad parts, but sometimes we can actually suppress beautiful parts, and that can also come and then rest in the shadow, which is then the parts that we're not even aware that we're suppressing anymore. So an example of this could be if you are a very loving and kind person, and you like contact, right? If that was shamed as a child, you can push that into the shadow as well. So the shadow is a repository of everything that you've suppressed, that you're not consciously aware of anymore, and then you start seeing this in other people. But what did Jung as well say, and all the stories, according to Joseph Campbell, you have to face the dragon to get the gold. And as Nietzsche said, when you stare into the abyss stares back into you. So becoming aware of your shadow aspects is very important in order for you to grow and integrate and pull back the aspects of yourself that has fragmented off from your conscious awareness in order for you to survive. So how do we do this? Well, if we look at triggers, right? We live in a time where it's almost a sin to trigger people, right? We have safe spaces and trigger warnings, and this is actually ridiculous, because whatever triggers you shows you where you need to grow. And as Hermann Hesse, one of my absolute favorite authors, said, if something irritates you in a person, then that is actually within yourself, right? But you've disowned it within yourself. So to give an example, let's say you're a very talented artist or musician, and you're not living that, right? You've suppressed it because you've believed that it's stupid, or financially not viable, or that you can't do it, right? If you then see somebody doing this, you might say, oh, that person thinks, they're better than everyone else. But actually, subconsciously, you're thinking that they're better than you, right? Because you're suppressing the part in yourself that will allow yourself to actually do that, because you are too scared. So this is the thing about triggers. When you are triggered, it's actually not just what is happening in the moment that is triggering you, but it's triggering deep memories all the way back to your childhood. And this can be very healing if you can look at it, right? Because if we look at the universe being a hologram, being Indra's web. So if we look at Indra's web, it's a web with lots of little water droplets on it, and every little water droplet reflects every other little water droplet. So we're a microcosm of the macrocosm. And as you know, with a hologram as well, even if you cut it into little pieces, the little pieces still has the whole. So we are in a mirror universe, and everyone is reflecting ourselves back to ourselves. Now, this isn't always a direct mirror, right? If you see somebody being abusive and that triggers you, it doesn't mean that you are abusive. But if you are staying, let's say, in a relationship that is abusive, then you are abusing yourself, right? And that's mirroring the aspects of yourself to yourself that you don't love. So that person doesn't love me, I don't love me, because I am not leaving that person. Then a trigger can also happen in the positive, right? We can project our shadow aspects onto another person, but we can also project our light aspects onto another person. And as I said in a previous video, that person would then have to have some similarity to our light for them to carry that projection. So as an example again, when we fall in love, when we fall deeply in love, or when we are really deeply attracted to a person, right, and we're triggered, we're activated, and we don't know why that is, it could be because that person is manifesting or living a shadow aspect of ourselves, something that we want to integrate, something that we want in our own lives, but because we've pushed it into the shadow, because we shame it, because we think it's wrong, we judge it, right? So how then to do shadow work? So I have mentioned this before. It's not direct shadow work, it's called The Work. You can find it on www.thework.com. It's a woman called Byron Katie. You can find her on YouTube, and she has 4 questions and a turnaround. So you do a judge your neighbor worksheet, you become as petty as you absolutely can, you judge your neighbor, you write down everything, and then you turn it around. You try to see where it's true for the self. Now this is not easy work, because remember, the conscious mind does not want to see the shadow because it's shaming it, right? It's shaming vulnerability, it's shaming freedom, it's also shaming anger and, you know, jealousy and all of that. But if we can see the shadow with love and kindness, right, and we can realize where it comes from, then we can integrate it, and then we can actually become excited about being triggered, excited about, you know, feeling angry, because that will every time bring us back to ourselves. You know, as I've also said before, trying to change another person is an active abandonment of self. My friend Narushka said this. I don't know, Narushka, if it actually comes from somebody famous, so I really have to start looking into, you know, saying who coined these things first. But it's an active abandonment of self if you're trying to change another person, because if you become bitter because somebody does not want to change, it's actually you that don't want to change, because there's something in the shadow that you believe but you don't know that you believe it, that's stopping you from looking at it without judgment, integrating it, and then moving forward. So this is one of the wonderful things. Yes, the archons created this universe, and it is created in such a way that it's suffering, right? It's suffering and it's difficult and we're frustrated, but everyone is reflecting us back to ourselves. So this doesn't mean that if there are bad things in your life, you're a bad person and you haven't done your work. No, that's prosperity religion. That's just snip. I don't agree with that. But it does mean that everything that comes to us only triggers us if we believe it, right? So somebody can only harm you as much as you abuse yourself. Somebody can only break you down as much as you break yourself down. You only get triggered by an insult if you agree with it. So the example that I always use is, let's say there's a girl and she weighed 150 kilograms and then she lost 40 kilograms and now she's weighing 110. And then there's another girl who weighed 40 kilograms, but she's now, she's got issues with, let's say, anorexia, and she's gained 5 kilograms. If you tell the girl that weighs 110 now that she's fat, she's going to laugh at you because she feels fabulous, right? She's lost weight and she's like, honey, I'm beautiful. But if you tell the girl that's weighing 45 that she's fat, she is going to lose it, right? Because she agrees with you, because she doesn't love herself as she is yet. And this is where our triggers can show us where we need to heal, because we get triggered when we agree with an insult. We also get triggered if we see disowned aspects of ourselves within somebody else. And this is why shadow work is so important, because self-love lies in shadow work, right? The love of the monster, facing the monster and integrating the monster, but also facing the light, the beauty, and integrating the light and the beauty. And this is why we're on this planet, right? Yes, to wake up from this illusion, and it has been designed in such a way to keep us stuck. But once we flip the script, once we start to see that everyone is a mirror of ourselves, and once we start to embrace our triggers and embrace the shadow, then we wake up to the fact that we're all one, and then we actually stop judging the other, because what you judge in the other, you judge in yourself, because we are all one, and the subconscious mind knows this, right? There's no difference between you and another. So if we can start forgiving ourselves, we can start forgiving others. And if we can start forgiving others, we can start forgiving ourselves. And when we get triggered, when we, are really activated, to get excited about it and to go look at it by doing the work, www.thework.com. Obviously also look at Carl Gustav Jung and all his work. James Hollis is another amazing person to read with regards to this. And then my favorite author, Hermann Hesse. He wrote the book Steppenwolf. It's my favorite book. I cried when I read it. Okay, bye.